Should the guilty verdict in the Vanderbilt rape trial be thrown out? It's a decision which all hinges on one juror's failure to disclose his history as the apparent victim of statutory rape. And his doing so could have massive implications for two former Vandy football players convicted of rape themselves. We have team coverage of the hearing tonight. Let's begin with News Channel 5's Chris Conti, who was in the courtroom all day today. Chris, was a ruling made?
A ruling was not made, Rory. Instead, the judge here said that he has so much testimony and information to go through that he will not make a decision on this mistrial until next Tuesday. But what the court heard today was graphic in nature and potentially damaging for the prosecution's case.
Ready to get started?
If you didn't know better, you might have assumed today's court hearing was focused on the two former Vandy football players in orange jumpsuits.
When a juror willfully conceals or fails to disclose information on voir dire, which reflects on the juror's lack of impartiality, a presumption of prejudice arises.
Today's focus, though, was not on Brandon Vandenberg or Corey Beatty.
He was not the victim of any unwanted sexual touching.
Instead, it was on one of the 12 jurors who convicted them of raping a female student in her dorm room 2 years ago.
Did you consider yourself an impartial juror in this case?
Absolutely.
Todd Easter was the jury foreman. During jury selection, he failed to disclose that when he was 16 years old, he was in a consensual relationship with a 23-year-old man.
I was in the same state of mind that any 16-year-old who just went through a tragic breakup was in, so I don't know if scared is the word, but I was heartbroken.
After Todd's parents found out about the relationship, though, the man was charged with statutory rape, technically making Todd a victim.
I was asked if I considered myself a victim, and I said no.
None of this, though, was ever conveyed during jury selection. Defense attorneys argue in no way would they ever have allowed the 31-year-old to be a juror.
To the best of my knowledge, sitting in that chair, from what I could recollect, for the involvement that I'd had that could have any potential impact on my decision-making as a juror was that case.
Mr. Easter has no credibility, Your Honor. He is not a credible witness. He was not credible on that stand, he was not credible on that stand, and he was not credible when he was sworn in back here.
Prosecutors, though, believe the motion should be thrown out, arguing Todd Easter didn't influence any other jurors' decisions.
Nothing would erode the confidence in the criminal justice system more than were the court to grant this motion.
A decision which will impact two men's fate, but by no actions of their own. Originally, Brandon Vandenberg and Corey Beatty were both supposed to learn how long they'd be spending behind bars today, but obviously sentencing cannot happen until a decision is made on this mistrial ruling. We're live downtown this evening. Chris Conti, News Channel 5 HD.
All right, Chris, thanks. Of course, that decision won't be necessary if the judge declares a mistrial. Setting aside a verdict is rare, but it does happen. It's a decision News Channel 5's Mark Bellinger has been looking into. He joins us now from the newsroom with a look at what happens next. Mark?
Well, Rory, a lot can happen either way. If there's a mistrial, the judge would set a date for a new trial. Vandenberg and Beatty could post bond and be set free.
Come to order, please.
A decision to throw out a verdict and declare a mistrial is not an easy one for a judge to make. News Channel 5 legal analyst Nick Leonardo says the defense team must prove jury foreman Todd Easter lied when asked questions during jury selection.
These individuals are entitled to 12 and neutral and impartial jurors, not just 11.
Judge Monty Watkins says he'll issue a written decision by next Tuesday. If he declares a mistrial, Brandon Vandenberg and Corey Beatty, who the jury convicted of multiple counts of aggravated rape and sexual assault, could be set free.
They would be entitled to bond, and they would get, a bond issued, and then they would, proceed to trial again, or the case would be resolved in some sort of plea bargain.
The judge would set the date for a new trial. But if Judge Watkins denies the motion for a mistrial, there would be a sentencing hearing. Vandenberg and Beatty would go back to prison. Their attorneys can begin the appeals process, which begins with asking Judge Watkins for a new trial. If the judge says no, which usually happens, Then the defendants can appeal Watkins' decision to the Tennessee Court of Appeals, which can take several months.
It takes quite a bit of time from where they're sitting today, and of course this case seems to be, the pace of this litigation seems to be rather slow, but before they got any kind of relief from the Court of Criminal Appeals and a direct appeal, you're probably talking 18 months from now.
A mistrial could also set up a scenario where there could be room for a plea bargain agreement, especially if the attorneys are pretty sure that a new jury would return a similar verdict. Reporting live from the newsroom, Mark Bellinger, News Channel 5 HD.